On the talking about the Hall of Fame goaltenders, this week's guest, I've been constructing an episode that I wanted to talk to someone about goaltending because I've got some other goaltenders in the future that we're going to talk to, some historically amazing goaltenders, but I really wanted to talk to someone about, not only coming from another country as a goaltender, but also having a very interesting story about how becoming a goaltender and entering the position became a thing for him. But then on top of that, because he actually is a coach that not only coaches youth, but he coaches all levels, which is really cool. And I've really seen a lot of evolution in the position. Um, it's the wildest position in sports. I'm just going to say that it's the wildest position in sports. Being a goaltender in the NHL, having pucks come at you 90 to 100 miles per hour regularly. And I know a soccer ball comes hard to it, but the net is massive. We're talking about a net and it's smaller than the person mostly. And you got to try to stop things, and you got to be athletic, and you got to be big, and you got to know your position. It's unreal. I really had a great conversation with Miro, and and I can't wait for you guys to hear what we talk about. So we're going to move up into to have a chat with about goaltending. Here we go. Well, we have our first goalie on the show. He's from Prešov, Slovakia. Played in Slovakia and France before he moved to the States. Played for the Brooklyn Aces in the Eastern Professional Hockey League, where he did well in 26 games with 18 wins. From there, the Elmira Jackals in the ECHL, an affiliate of the Blue Jackets, called him for a stint. Has coached in the New York City Cyclones hockey program since coming to the Big Apple. Has become one of the most popular goalie coaches around New York City area with his company NYC Goaltending, where he coaches every crazy kid who likes getting things shot at them from a young age up to the adult, from beginners to pros. Probably one of the hardest shooting goalies I've ever seen. Wonderful husband, father, and a great guy to have sodas with. Welcome to Cross Ice Pass, Miro Recicar.
Hey, Steve. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you because um, the world I get enough of you, but the world needs to see more of you out there. Now, the plan today is to get as much info as we can about the most mysterious position in the sport of hockey. Maybe the most mysterious position in all of sports is hockey goaltending. But we're going to start with my usual question, which is what is your fondest hockey memory? It can be current, old, whichever you think.
Whew. Killed me with this one. So many good ones, so many bad ones, but most memorable would be probably uh, like in juniors playing the finals for the championship against Yarohalak.
Okay. Which I just noticed he got signed again. Someone picked him up because someone's injured. Maybe Edmonton will get him. Who knows? We'll find out.
Yeah, he's on PTO with Carolina right now.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty big one. Because a lot of people, especially in the New York area, know Halak. So, um, that's that's a good memory. Um, what was your one thing about instead of starting? We're not going to start now. I kind of want to go back and then make our way to current. Was I'm kind of curious what your childhood was like, and what brought you to being a target between the pipes.
Oh, funny story. Yeah, so I kind of got to hockey by watching it. Like growing up, it was Czechoslovakia. I don't know, like I used to watch Czechoslovakia like playing world championships and stuff when I was little. So one day I decided to just ask my parents to get me hockey skates and a hockey stick for Christmas, and that's how it all started. I started skating. I played out, played forward for I don't know, maybe like 2 years or so, and then we had a game. We had a like exhibition game against a women's team, and one goalie. We had two goalies on the team, and one goalie was sick. Other one was attending family wedding or something. So we had no goalie. So like 10 minutes before the game, coach walks into the locker room and asks who wants to play goalie. No one wanted to play, so I'm just like, okay, I want to play a game. I don't want like just gonna put the whole team down. So I raised my hand. I said like, okay, I'll suck it up and I'll suit up and I'll play goalie. So I played that game. We won 7-3. I remember that like it was yesterday. We won 7-3. I made some good glove saves, and that's basically how I started playing goalie.
How were the ladies rifling you top cheddar, or is that how three of those goals went in?
Uh, I don't remember. I don't remember like how I got scored on, but like I was busy. I was busy, and I stood my ground. So
That's a pretty good way to start your goaltending journey.
yeah.
Um, one thing about the thing that's always interesting to me is especially kind of hearing from some Swedes and Finns and kind of how hockey systems work. And as far as like you end up in a program and then you end up playing juniors, then you play pro there. How did the hockey system work in Slovakia from like youth to pro? Did you end up staying with the same team through the whole time?
Yeah. For the most part, yes. So basically, like in Slovakia, how it works, or I'm not sure how it works right now, but when I was a kid, like we had like this big tryout, and they have like hockey schools there. So basically, like you go to the tryout, you compete against like I don't know, like 60, 70, 70 kids from the city, and they pick around like 24, 26 players. So I went to the tryout, made a team, and basically, like, when you make the team, you do everything together. You go to school together, you go to practices together. Sometimes your practice is before school, sometimes you go to school first for like two classes, and then all together as a team, you go to the hockey rink and practice for an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever it is. Then you go back to school and then you go home. So basically, that was basically from grade third to grade ninth. And after that, you have to make like another tryout. You have to go to tryout, and I don't know how to pronounce it, but you have junior team and like the team below that. It's like when you're 14 to 17. So it's like I don't know, like midget team.
Okay.
Okay, so let's call it midget team. So you have midget tryouts, and after midget tryouts, you have junior team, and from junior team, you basically like if you're good, you know what you do with your life. You either like go to school or you try to become pro and play hockey for a living. So midgets, juniors, and then pro team.
Yeah, and is there in Slovakia? 'Cause I know in Sweden there's kind of a semi-pro team and then the pro team. It goes to
Yeah,
like junior, semi-pro, pro. Is that kind of how it was in Slovakia?
yeah,
Okay, so you had a little bit of time before you had to play against grown men, which is probably better.
yes,
Yeah, yeah. Um, that's good to know. I'm glad it wasn't so different. I mean, it's so funny because a kid from the States and then knowing how Canadians work. The thing is that's cool that you got to experience that. I didn't really get to experience in the States. Maybe Canada does a little bit, but I never really went to school with my teammates. So you're like always around these people, which probably, you know, maybe a good thing, maybe, but then also you end up probably getting some good friends out of it over the time, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Like I still talk to like one or two friends from like third grade. It's awesome. Also, like the system that you have in Europe, like it's very interesting because like you as a youth hockey player, like you can watch these pro guys. You go to the games and you can watch them, and all like there's so much there's so much what's the word motivation
Camaraderie?
motivation
Yeah.
motivation to like take the next step. Like you go through like third and ninth grade, and then like okay, like I have to do this and that. I have to sacrifice this time to like become a better player, to be able to like make the midget team, to be able to like make the junior team. And you look up to like pro guys, and that's your goal, that you eventually want to play pro, and you want to become one of those guys.
So you're probably getting some more like, when you're young and you're playing hockey and you kind of sin. I mean, don't get me wrong. I never had this problem of like thinking about going pro, but I know that motivator amongst like your teammates is probably the best part, because I know that most people I know that grew up in the States didn't really have that kind of motivator other than maybe a couple teammates or something. But when you're around the program that long, I can imagine that kind of gets you motivated, as you say, to kind of get into semi-pro and junior and pro.
Oh, absolutely. like like I said, like you have something to look forward to if you
Yeah,
really like serious about the sport, and about like where you want your path to go.
yeah, especially when you're like, oh, that's my buddy. At least no matter what, at least I got my buddy with me to kind of take me through the process, which is great. So,
Yeah, exactly.
after through all your years in Slovakia, that it's so funny just because hockey DB, all this stuff online just doesn't really give the best data unless you're like Connor McDavid sometimes.
Yeah.
So I did a little dig, but of course I'm much more interested in the fact that Hockey DB says you were born in Brooklyn, which I think is hilarious, because I know that I'm curious about what influenced your decision to not only come to the States, but specifically in New York, and to play for the Aces, which ended up with a little touch um, for the Jackals as well.
So everybody all like in Europe like was about NHL, and like in Slovakia when I was growing up, like I couldn't like watch like the entire game. So we had like every Friday there was a highlight and everything. I fell in love with the NHL, and I always wanted to like experience playing in the States. So uh, it kind of happened all like randomly. It wasn't all like decision that I made from like one day to another. But I met my wife in Slovakia, and she lived in New York. So we were talking for like 2 years, like Skype through the Skype, text messages, MySpace, whatever it was. And so after like 2 years, I decided to like come visit, and so I came here, stayed for like 2 months, 3 months. I kind of liked it, so I stayed, and that's basically how I started my first playing career over here, and then coaching career.
That's interesting because that brings us kind of to the right move as far as for the Brooklyn Aces. I knew it was kind of like I don't want to say it's a defunct league, but it was kind of a small league, and I know that the Brooklyn Aces were only around for like 1 year, I think.
Yeah.
Sounds like you played most of the games, but kind of curious about that time when did coaching ever come to your mind when you were in Slovakia, or was it something you thought about when you came here?
Funny you asked that because like when I think it was my second year playing pro. One of my coaches from juniors came up to me, and like we had like 2 hour meeting, and he wanted me to quit playing and coach with him one of the I think he was coaching all like U15 Slovakian national team, and he wanted me to like quit hockey and start like my coaching career. And right away I said no, not a chance. Like I'm not like coaching. Yeah, I'm not a like coaching material. I want to play. I don't want to coach. No. So he was trying to like convince me for like 2 hours, and all the time I said I said no. So answer to your question is I had no idea. I had no idea like what I was gonna do later on in my life, in my career. But yeah, like in the younger stage of my life, I never thought that I would be coaching.
It's also interesting because I know that now your kind of niche is definitely a goaltending coach, but I also know that you coach teams that, just as a regular assistant coach or a head coach and not just about goaltending. And how did the having that so much variation in your coaching end up bringing you to kind of being a specific goaltending coach, other than the fact that you've been playing the position so long?
Yeah, well, like being around all like good quality coaches like makes you like wonder like can I do this? Can I do that? Uh, so I've been doing all like assistant coach and all or like leading a team. Um, but like I always knew like in my heart that goaltending is something that should stick with me, and I wanted to do like forever.
Well, I mean, you've been doing a good job at that, and seems like it's got a lot of forward progression for you. Um, One thing that I kind of want to jump into when it comes to coaching is, I got a thing written down here that I thought was interesting, is that Tom Barrasso won the Vezina with the Buffalo Sabres the year you were born. Um, as a player and coach around long enough to see the evolution of the position, what are the most significant changes you've seen happen through the years?
Uh, just style, style changed like drastically, and it happened like if you look at the goalies like playing in '90s, and then like after like 2000, it's just all like completely different position. Like they changed, the position changed, and style changed so much that it's not even funny.
Well, and it's so interesting for the fact that when I started to kind of dig into, like, to ask you proper questions, because I've been a head coach for a while, and I'm always that like, well, what, just keep your glove up, kid. That's kind of my depth of the position, and making sure that they're going post to post and working on their edges better. But like, what's interesting is that when you think about the 80s with the stand-up style, and all over internet and media that I find, they say Brodeur was the last stand-up goaltender. And then they always talk about the butterfly style and how that was a Glenn Hall and a Tony Esposito thing. And then that kind of came up through the 90s. And I guess, that Quebec, I'll layer that Quebec coach that was Patrick Waugh's coach. And then they also talk about this style. I think it's called where is it at? Pro fly. Like, there's so many terms when I started going through this stuff that I was just like, can you explain to the viewers that maybe don't know some of the nuances or some of the styles and some of the hybrid styles and things? Like, what's the difference between butterfly or pro fly or split legs. There's all this like wild stuff that I found that I was just like, what? I can't wait to ask Miro about these.
Yeah, like to be honest, I only know stand up style, hybrid, and butterfly. I don't know anything about all like the other styles.
So you're completely hybrid then.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so funny just because I mean, as a player, what do you think your style was? Or
As
still is maybe?
it like on the beginning of my career, it was more stand up style. Like growing up, I was taught like stocking pads, like saves where like we're working on like completely different movements than I'm teaching right now and goalies using right now. So it was like kick save, stacking pads. It was more about poke checks. It was more about like being on your feet. It was more about like keeping your gloves like more like beside you, like on the sides. Now it's like the whole thing changed. Now goalies they have to like keep everything like out in front. They have to be over the puck. It's more going down, covering the bottom of the net. It's more about like understanding the game. Before it was more about like reacting and relying on your reflexes and being like acrobatic in the net. Now
There's a
it's
lot of that, there's a lot of that to have to do with, because I know hockey's all about anticipation and like the best hockey players anticipate plays. And I can, just like a breakout, you can kind of see a breakout happening or something. But as far as a goaltender goes, how does a goalie anticipate those plays? Because I know sometimes, especially at the NHL level now, because they're so fast, that that anticipation and that cheating sometimes ends up costing pretty big goals.
yeah. So like you always have to be ready for all the options that player has, that the puck carrier has. So when the player enters to the zone, like you already have to know what's going on the weak side. Who is driving to the net, who is staying high. If those players are lefties, righties, like in like one split of a second, you have to like have those things like in your head and have it under control. So if the player makes a play, like you already know what you're doing. So you have to think. Goaltending right now, like it's all about like knowing all these things before they happen. All about details, and you
Kind
have to.
of, kind of like a visual, like kind of like how RoboCop looked through his helmet,
Yeah,
seeing where we're seeing where all the scenarios are and how fast you can get to those scenarios.
yeah,
That's so wild just because, I've always told myself, and I still say that, when people are like, "Oh, you ever play goalie?" I'm like, "No, I'm not crazy." But of course, goaltenders are the best people, but they're a little crazy, a little bit. But then,
we are weird. We're a little
yeah.
weird.
But the thing about the stand up and the butterfly that I found interesting is that apparently Jacques Plant, is kind of known as the first guy with a mask, but he actually played a little bit with Glenn Hall, and Glenn Hall was kind of known as the first guy to do the butterfly style. Him and Terry Sawchuk, because they would go down, and then they get hit in the face with the puck. And Jacques Plant was like, "Why would you ever do that? Because you just get hit in the face with the puck." And then, all of a sudden we have the masks and helmets now to kind of deal with that. But and then the butterfly, and then it kind of all moved into all this other stuff. And what you were just mentioning is interesting to me for the fact that the styles that you're coaching now versus the styles you were coaching maybe when you started. What are you seeing? How are kids kind of evolving and changing just because things that are happening maybe off the ice as well?
Okay, so like before you just had to be be little athletic. But nowadays, like kids, they have to be strong. They have to be flexible. They have to be athletic. They have to they have to understand the game. So it it just takes so much more for a kid nowadays to play the position, because not everybody is able to do all those things. It was so much easier like before, like 15, 20 years ago than it's now. And it's getting all like so much harder and harder and harder, like every single year. Players are getting so much faster, they're getting so much stronger. So I believe that like 5 years, 10 years from now, or like it will it will be like very hard to play the position.
Do you
You'll
think that do you think in the future, this is something I think about often just because there's so many really big goaltenders now. And you go back in time, a few guys were big, like Ken Dryden was pretty tall, and there was a few tall guys in there, but now it seems to be kind of the normalcy to the sport, especially at the NHL level. And there are a couple guys that aren't so tall, but do you think that eventually they'll just all have to be tall just to deal with the coverage of the net?
Well, define tall.
Well, I think like, guys that are like you know, over 6 feet basically. And I feel like the goaltender now, like guys like Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky and some of these really tall guys, um, are almost like basketball player size. That and they're so because they're so athletic as well as like a basketball player. And that's kind of my frame of reference for sure.
Yeah, so I feel like if you're gonna if you're not like 6'1", 6'2", then you're gonna have a hard time to like play, especially in NHL.
Interesting. Why do you think?
Because like you'll have to like you you take up more net, right? Bigger goalie, and especially with the style, butterfly style, when once they drop, or like their shoulders are basically like above the crossbar. So that's what like scouts and all like coaches look for. And when they have like two goalies, same level, same compete level, basically like really good goalies, but I see 6'2" goalie and I see 5'11" goalie, I'll probably go with 6'2" goalie. So I
Right.
that the height, the size, the frame matters right now, and it'll matter like in the future too.
Especially because I think the bigger these guys are, these bigger guys are starting to get more just as athletic as a smaller guy. And that used to be the thing. Like the more compact goaltenders that I remember were kind of much more, like Brodeur was a much more, mobile goaltender. But now, guys, Vasilevsky does some of the most athletic things I've ever seen for a big man on skates.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But also like you can't forget that Russians are animals. Like wherever. I was watching I was watching a video. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. Like kids training in Russia, like 8, 9, 10 year olds, and they're doing all like crazy stuff, all like knees on the floor, like feet on the floor. They lean back, like their back is touching the floor. They're just all like I don't know how they do it. That they're also like first of all they're forced to do it. They're
Yeah,
forced to do it, and like coach just like pushes them onto the floor, and eventually like they get used to it, and their bones adjust to those movements, and eventually all like they get used to it, and they're all like super flexible, and they can do whatever they want
they don't
with their
have too many. They don't have any safe sport things
Yeah,
over there. Yeah.
yeah, that's for sure.
Kind of continuing on the evolution of the position, how important has, now that we kind of discussed sizes and positions and styles, how important is the equipment evolution to the position?
Oh, it was a huge part of like to change the style. Like I remember me growing up, all like pads were like shaped completely differently than they're right now. Right now they're like basically like square on the top. Like before, you had a little curve over here on the inside of the pad. They were a little bit smaller. So I think like the evolution of of equipment took a huge part in the position in goaltending. I remember like me like playing in eighth grade, ninth grade, and I had to put like shin pads under my leg pads because when I got hit in the knee, like my whole body just like it just shook my whole body. Like it was just basically like puck hitting my knee, hitting
Oh,
my knee.
wow.
So I had to do something. Now you don't have all like those problems. Now
Yeah.
kids they can do anything they want with their equipment. They can customize it. They can they can make their pad a little bit softer, a little bit stiffer. They can go regular. They have like so much more options right now.
Also the weight. I mean, I remember when I
Oh,
first started playing hockey, as soon as the pads get wet,
oh,
the guys definitely slow down.
oh. It's a huge difference carrying your bag going to the game and carrying your bag after the game. It's just all like 10 pounds difference. Was
Yeah.
I
No,
hated
and
those. I
I'm
hated those.
I'm curious too, like as far as the specifics of the equipment, the helmet. I mean, I know that things kind of switched over the years. I know in the '80s, guys like Chris Terreri and some of those guys had kind of basic player looking helmets
Yeah,
with just kind of a little bit more of a neck protector. But once it went to kind of the helmet we've seen now, I haven't seen them as far as the visual of the helmet. It hasn't really changed too much as far as I know, unless the something inside of it has changed.
yeah. The padding changed a lot, and also the material that helmets are made from is so much harder. It gives you like more protection. Like before, like I used to play with Cooper helmet, just like Chris Osgood. And when I got hit like in my forehead, like my head was like flying backwards, or like straight in my nose, or like so many times like the cage just like bent like 2 inches, like touching my nose. Now you don't really see those things. Or like now like the cage like bends a little bit, but it's not like as much as it used to as it used to be. So
Also I see that a lot of the helmets, and you see this in the NHL, and I've even seen it with the kids that I coach. One little like if the shot hits them hard enough, the helmet like loosens, which almost is like an extra safety protection thing.
those buckles on the side, or like if you get hit, or like you don't really you feel it, but it doesn't really hurt. And I feel like you said, well, like those buckles get a little bit loosen up, and then like your helmet like falls down. So it's actually like you said, it's pretty good for safety.
Yeah.
But referees sometimes don't see it, and they just let the play go, and goalie has to like play without helmet. So
Yeah, and
referee,
you'll see them yell at the ref, and
yeah,
or some of the, like I saw Jake Ottinger do this a couple games back or something. He just like took it off,
yeah.
and they're like, "Why'd you take it off?" And he like, "Because it was loose and you didn't notice." So sounds like that's a common thing for a ref. Not, I mean, let's be honest. There's not many refs anymore. We're limited on refs in the world right now, but they're still we still don't have to like them.
Yeah, they need to pay a little bit more attention, and no one wants to become a ref because like everybody's like pitching at them.
Yeah, it's not. It's probably the least favorite thing to do in hockey. Even though once in a while you'll see a kid, or I'll coach a kid that like wants to, and I'm like, are you sure you want to do that?
Yeah,
That's to me. That's when I think about the least amount of things I want to do in hockey. One of them is the leastest is being a ref. The next is being a goalie.
yeah.
So, but that kind of makes me want to move into this other thing, which is a little more specific about goaltending, and we can be a little more specific about you as a goaltender, is that hockey forwards and defensemen are very specific about their equipment and setup. Are goalies any different, or are they worse?
We're worse.
That was what I knew you were going to say that. But
Yeah, definitely worse. Like we have to like me personally, like I didn't let anybody like when okay. Well, let me start with this. Like so many times I see my goalies like telling me, "Oh my gosh, well, like it's a Christmas break and I want to play forward, so I'm gonna like switch my equipment with somebody else. I'll play forward. He'll play goalie." And I'm just like, I would never do that. I would never let anybody use my equipment ever.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Never.
that surprises me because I would that's what I would guess it would be like. I mean, for there's a lot of hockey players. A lot of us, like for instance, I don't like people touching my stick. Like I'm never gonna let anyone tape my stick. I'm never gonna let anyone cut my stick. When someone's like, "Oh, you got to go to the pro shop and get it cut," and I'm like, "Why? I have a hacksaw in my locker. I can and I know how to use it." But
Like,
yeah, it's amazing to think that kids would let someone use their goalie gear. That was nuts.
no, absolutely not. And I yell at them. Like before the games when I played, like everybody knew. Everybody knew. All my teammates, all the coaching staff, everybody that they're not allowed to come close to my equipment. If they did, flip out. Don't touch my stick. Don't look at my gloves. Don't come in. Don't come even close to my stuff. Just stay away.
I think there's a story that Patrick Waugh had
Yeah.
one time about that where someone touched his gear and they actually put it on. And after he goes, "Yeah, it's nice to meet you, but don't touch my freaking gear."
Hmm.
So yeah, that kind of moves me into we're getting kind of close here, but one thing I'm very curious about because I never hear this from a goalie, I only hear this from someone else, including myself has said this, you know, yeah, goalies are crazy, goalies are weird, goalies are this. Um, I want to know what you think. Why does everyone think goalies are different than the rest?
Because we're okay. So like we play team sport, but the goaltending position is basically like individual sport. It just like takes you away from like everything, especially when you're on the ice during the game. During the practice, it's a lot like a little bit looser. You can have fun. You can have that. But when the game time comes, like you just have to like turn the switch on, and you just have to like be in your own world. So you kind of like separate yourself from like everybody and everything, and you just want to focus on what you have to do when you get on, and how to help the team to win the game. So I feel like that's why everybody like thinks that goalies are weird. Goalies are from different planet because we kind of like separate ourselves from everybody and everything before games.
Plus, you guys are officially the last line of defense, and I think that that as your duty as that position is pretty big.
Yeah, everybody sees like when you make a mistake. no one's gonna be able to like see what happened in the ozone. No one's gonna be able to, or everybody will forget that the defenseman all like tripped skating backwards in the neutral zone, but everybody's going to remember that you made a mistake, that you kind of like messed up, and that's why we kind of have to like be on a different page in
Yeah.
game, like prepare ourselves a little bit more mentally than everybody else.
Goaltenders have a little bit more harder skin, but what you're saying too, kind of, when I defend goaltenders, it's kind of is that same reason. I'm like, listen, you'll always make great friends in hockey. It's just the sport is just kind of great that way. But you have a goaltender as a friend, that dude will protect you in any way possible. Because not only is he the last line of defense on the ice, he could be your last line of defense at some big dude when you're having a few sodas that just you can't get rid of. Goaltenders have a tendency to be the the first captain on the team, I always say.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully they all are, but there's a few that aren't that I like to think are um, a very tight knit crowd. But usually goaltenders are pretty interesting. My goaltender in high school shaved his head because he lost 2 games. His dad
Hey, you
bought
gotta change it up, right?
yeah, yeah. No, and his dad would buy him a dozen sticks because if he had a bad game, he would break it over the crossbar. So, but that was back in the day when wooden sticks were like $30. I
Yeah.
don't think I think if a parent had that problem nowadays, they probably would change their attitude a little bit.
I remember like me breaking my stick over a crossbar once in my life, and equipment manager saw it. It was like game, we're winning like I don't know by 3 goals. I had like shutout going. It was maybe like 2 minutes left of the game, and I got scored on. So they ruined my shutout. Turned around, broke the stick over the crossbar. Equipment manager saw it. He ran upstairs to the owner. He told him that right after the game. I got I got called to the owner's office, and he's like, okay, for the rest of the season, you're not getting any sticks because we're getting them for free. So for the rest of the season, it was towards the end of the season, so I didn't really care. But learning lesson: for the rest of the season, you're not getting any sticks, and you have to pay for the one that you broke.
Oh no.
So my first and last stick that I broke on purpose. I, that like I cared about my equipment more than anything.
I mean, as you should, but yeah, that's a funny
Oh,
story. One thing I wanted to ask you about. It seems like out of all you the stuff that I've found about you and we've talked about and I know about you, I want to talk about this Elmira Jackals thing and how did that come about and what brought you to that?
so when I was playing for the Aces, like I was getting called up like all the time. Like I went to training camp to Elmira, and also I went to training camp to Reading Royals, and like both training camps, I was up there like for the entire time. And both times I got called to the office. Like coach wants to talk to you, so I'm just like perfect. Like I'm signing contract and everything. I was so excited, but both times they told me that NHL goalie was sent down, and I have to go. So first time it was the kid that played few games for the Kings, and second time in Reading it was James Reimer that was sent down. So I had to go. So I guess they remembered me from the training camp, and they started like calling me up like during the season when they needed me.
So how did that work? Did they just like give you a call and then just had to grab all your stuff and jump on a plane and get to a game?
Oh no, you sit in the car. You sit in the car. You drive for like 7 hours. You
Oh
you
no.
play one game, and then they send you back, so you drive another 7 hours after the game.
Well, hopefully you got some free gear and stuff out of it, so you didn't have to worry about a broken stick in that situation.
Yeah, they still owe me a like paycheck for like 2 weeks that I
Oh
was
my gosh.
that was
well,
like
well,
12 years ago.
we gotta talk to some of our Russian friends and get out there and tell Myra and figure that out.
Yeah.
Um, closing, Miro, I'm kind of curious if you got any like plans for the future of your company NYC Goaltending, and kind of what you're thinking that it could look like in the future.
Well, I definitely wanna expand my business, and I kind of started like doing in the past, because before I was only at Chelsea Piers, but now I started like going to different places, to Connecticut, to Westchester, so I'm getting a little bit more clients and exposure. So yeah, so I wanna expand my business, and try to do as much as I can, try to be all like at as many places as I can be, and and try to keep busy.
Would you ever think about, because I always thought about this for you as like a college or a minor pro team or something that needs a goaltending coach. Has anyone ever talked to you about that, or you ever thought about something like that?
Well, I was with the Riveters for 1 year, and I enjoyed it all like so much. So I would be more than happy. I would be open to just all like focus on like one team, two, three goalies for the season, and then do my stuff in the spring and in summer. That would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, well, hey, PWHL only got 2 assistant coaches, so you never know what's on the horizon here.
Yeah, I always say yes to everything. So if opportunity presents itself, like I'll probably say yes.
That's good to know. Well, once we find out this New York team's name, um, we'll fingers crossed, because we don't even know what they're
Yeah,
called yet. I don't think so. So we'll find out soon enough, I guess. Hopefully before they start in January. But Miro, this has been such a great conversation. Thanks for giving myself and the viewers so many a little more perspective on what the not only being a goaltender but also being a goaltending coach has been, not only for your life but also just kind of the evolution of all of it. And it's going to be amazing to just keep an eye on what the next generation of goaltenders is going to be.
yeah, they're gonna be pretty sick.
It's going to be wild. So,
Yeah,
all right,
kid,
Miro, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy coaching schedule. And
but
we'll go ahead.
I just said my pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, Miro, thanks so much. Wow, that was a pretty awesome discussion with Miro. The story about him becoming a goaltender is so awesome. It's so funny for the fact that he just kind of said, "Okay, I'll be the goalie," and then that's how he ended up having his career, and it was a pretty storied career. And he really wanted to go to the NHL, and he ended up playing some minor pro in the States here. And he has truly been a wonderful um, goaltender, not only or a goaltending coach, not only for kids that I don't coach, but the kids I do coach. He's made them better. He's a great guy that is on when you're on the ice with him. He's a great coach. He's a great ball of energy and happiness, and it's just so great coaching with him. It's so great to watch him coach, and it's so great to see his skill set as a coach go up, as it has over the years that I've known him. So bravo to Miro. Thanks so much for giving us some insight into this crazy ass position. I'm still never gonna um, suit up to stand in front of the net. But I'll let some of my the craziest, most trustworthy dudes that I know. I'll let them do that. Today's music is speaking of hockey, wink, wink, is my good friend Aaron Letrick, who I met here in New York City. He used to play hockey with me on a couple teams, but in a Saturday organized skate that we used to do. He's now back in Detroit, but he's a great singer. Has had a pretty good singing career for many years. He loves the Red Wings. He absolutely loves the Red Wings, and we used to go to some games together. We still text each other in the middle of a game, and I send him a text and I say, "Did you see that?" Well, when I was starting to talk about how every episode I want to try to feature some type of friend or some type of relationship, some person I know and their music, this song kind of came to my mind because Aaron is such a huge advocate of Detroit City. It's such a strong place to grow up and live, and the Red Wings are such a great team to follow. So I can't wait for you to listen to kind of hear this on as we end this episode. This is his band LetricKramer. He's got a few different bands with guys that have played with Kid Rock and Ted Nugent and all kinds of guys that are played with these great Detroit rock bands. So Aaron's always kind of always got the voice for that. All I gotta say is, hey, episode 10, here we are. We're done. The first 10 episodes of Cross Ice Pass. I have achieved my goal of 10 episodes. I'm pretty proud of the episodes that I've created, and I can't wait to level up to the next 10. To maybe we'll say the next goal will be the 25th episode. Please subscribe on YouTube. Comment below. I'm still building things like a website. I'm still building some other spots for this podcast to be noticed and seen. Sponsorship is coming, and I really want to talk about. I've got a lot of really good things on deck, and I can't wait until I get to chat with you guys all, and you can see the growth of this podcast with me. So, saying that, I am on Instagram. You can find Cross Ice Pass NYC on Instagram, but please don't just make Instagram the place where you hear me. Please jump on and hear some of these great stories and some of these great interviews from some of these amazing, very unique hockey people that I've been talking with. We'll talk to you soon. Don't forget that puck that's flying cross ice, because you need to hit it top cheddar. And we'll talk soon. See you episode 1.